All right, so as the Harvey Weinstein case continues, we're going to get a quick recap from our very own Jesse Weber, who's been sitting in court all day. But let's start from here. The prosecution has rested. Now, Lauren Young was on the stand as of yesterday. There was direct cross-examination began yesterday. I got to see a bit of that myself. They continued this morning with cross-examination. Actually went back and forth with cross, redirect, cross, redirect. They eventually finished with her as a witness, and the prosecution rested. Now, in the state of New York, you have what's called a trial order dismissal. It's basically saying, hey, Your Honor, this case should not go to the jury, because even in the light most favorable to the prosecution, they have not made out the elements of a crime. Now, I've done a lot of trials here in New York. I've only won one trial or a dismissal when evidence wasn't able to come in because of foundational requirements, not like in the Pardon case where all of the videos coming in. So winning a trial or dismissal is huge. But losing it is pretty par for the course. So no real hair loss for Harvey Weinstein and the defense there. Now, the defense is actually putting on the case. They put on their very first witness. I don't want to say too much about that because Jesse Weber's going to come on in a moment and give us more detail. But now we know they're putting on a case. I don't know if Harvey Weinstein's going to take the stand. I wouldn't recommend it, but we don't know. But we have our very own Jesse Weber with us here, reporting live from 100 Center Street. Jesse, how you doing?
I'm good, Brian. How you doing? Quite an afternoon we've seen as the defense has been putting on their case.
All right, so tell us more about what happened today. From my understanding, Lauren Young was on the stand back and forth for a moment. We had some cross, redirect, recross, redirect. Tell us about how that testimony ended off for the day.
Sure. So the day started off with the prosecution wrapping up their case. Lauren Young continued with her testimony. Remember, she is one of the Molyneux witnesses who said that Harvey Weinstein trapped her in a hotel room, touched himself, and then proceeded to grope her. She was continuing her cross-examination, and Damon Sharonis, who was heading up that cross-examination, really tried to hit her on inconsistent statements, statements that she had made to the DA or law enforcement, and how that is not in coordination with what she said here on the stand, from everything about how she left the hotel room to what Harvey Weinstein was doing to where Claudia Salinas was. It was some good points that were ultimately made. After she finished up her testimony, we heard from two more witnesses. One witness to support the testimony of Lauren Young, a friend of hers who says that when she came home after this alleged attack, she was very distraught. We also heard from a computer forensic analyst who looked at the cell phones of Jessica Mann. Finally, we heard the recall of Taralay Wolf. She was asked just one more question by Donna Rotuno. It was about a response that she had given under cross-examination when she testified earlier in the case about allegedly having a conversation with a friend of hers named Gloria, where they seem to be coordinating the timeline of events. That's a big point for the defense, that these witnesses are deliberately changing their stories to help the prosecution's case. And after a failed judgment of acquittal, a motion for the defense to try to dismiss all the charges after the prosecution's case, the trial moved on and the defense began with their first witness this afternoon. It is a name that we have heard throughout this case, a man named Paul Felcher. Now, Paul Felcher's name came up during the Annabella Shora testimony. He was a good friend of Annabella Shora, and as we learned under cross-examination, a good friend of Harvey Weinstein. What he basically testified to, and the most important part, is that when Annabella Shora allegedly was assaulted by Harvey Weinstein, he had a conversation with her where she didn't tell him that she was assaulted. She didn't tell him that she was forced into anything. All she said is, I did something, I'm paraphrasing here, that I did something crazy with Harvey. And that's it. He said there was nothing remarkable or shocking or alarming about it. He indicated as a good friend of hers, if he heard something other than that, he would have followed up, but that was it. However, under cross-examination by prosecutor Jonah Luzzi, she basically shocked the courtroom with pulling out these series of text messages between Paul Felcher and Harvey Weinstein after the allegations broke in 2017, and the insinuation that she was making is that these two were in constant contact, possibly trying to tailor his testimony, or that he was giving Harvey Weinstein maybe false hope or false details about his conversation with Annabella Shora in order to help Harvey Weinstein. She basically tried to point them as chummy friends, or better yet, that he would do anything to help Harvey Weinstein. And that was a big insinuation to make. It started out, I wasn't sure that's where she was going to go, considering the prosecution seemed to be railroaded in a way. They weren't, throughout the beginning of the trial, they had been insinuating that Harvey Weinstein paid Paul Felcher $60,000. Now, the insinuation is, why did he pay them $60,000 in 2016? Was it so that Paul Felcher would testify a certain way? Well, the defense brought a series of emails that this guy was only paid a part of an independent project, that he was working as a consultant on one of a film project and it had nothing to do with this case. So the prosecution was a little taken aback. They didn't realize that. But I thought, I had to tell you, I thought that they were going to be having a losing hand with this witness. But Prosecutor Joan Aluzzi, my gosh, she turned it around and really painted this witness into a corner. He stumbled at times to try to explain his relationship, what he meant in text. In one of the text messages, he called Annabella Shore an a-hole and a liar. So I even saw some of the jury members smirking during the course of this to see that perhaps this guy is not so good at explaining his way out of this.
And that was going to be my follow-up question as well. How are the jurors reacting to some of this testimony? Because when I was there, I saw anything from stoic looks to almost grimaces to kind of like looking back and forth at each other. What do you think the jury, or how are they reacting to all this testimony?
Look, I can't speak for the entire jury, and even the facial expressions that they make, it's not good to judge that. Having said that, when Paul Felcher was being pressed about his relationship with Harvey Weinstein, one of the jurors looked up in the air and I believe shook his head because it seemed to suggest that he wasn't answering the prosecutor's questions and was trying to defend himself, was trying to defend his relationship with Harvey Weinstein in a way. And look, this witness wanted to come off credible, and he defended his text messages, but he was painted into a corner where it looked like that, as Prosecutor Joan Aluzzi said, you're going to say whatever you have to say to help Harvey Weinstein. And at one point she said to him, oh, you feel bad for him? You feel bad for him? And he seemed to indicate that he feels Harvey Weinstein is innocent, unless the jury feels otherwise, and that he is not getting due process. Now, that's one way to look at it, and I have to tell you, that's the right way to look at it from a legal point of view. But for a witness for the defense, I don't know if that's the way they thought this witness was going to go.
What do you anticipate is coming up next in this case? Do you anticipate more witnesses for the defense? Where do you think their arguments are going towards?
I believe that they are going to call another witness to impeach the credibility, to impeach the testimony of Annabella Shore, a director on one of the projects that she worked for. And I can't guarantee this, but from what I heard earlier on, this director might say that Annabella Shore was difficult on set. And, a big insinuation from the prosecution is that Harvey Weinstein's the reason that Annabella Shore got addicted to alcohol or drugs, and perhaps this witness is going to refute that and say that Annabella was just tough to work for and she's her own problem. I can't guarantee that's where it's going, but from the other birds that I've heard in the courtroom about where these lines of testimony are going, I believe that the defense will have a witness, at least one witness, to contradict the testimony of every one of these accusers, which makes sense. And we believe that their case will go about 3 days, maybe more, maybe less, but that's what the judge indicated today. So which means we could see closings and a verdict, or at least in the case in the jury's hands, by the end of next week.
Wow. Powerful. Thank you very much, Jesse. I can see you're standing there in the rain, so definitely won't let you go and get dry and warm. Thank you for all your hard work, and we'll come back to you later.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thanks.
Have a good one.